What's going on? Welcome back to another Climb the Pocket video. My name is Steve. I'm with my co-host, as always, Ryan McGinley. Find him on Twitter at Bootleg Fantasy. Find me at Steve_CTP. We've got an exciting one for you today. We're going to go over our top must-have players for the 2021 season as of right now. It is late June, about to be July, which means it's almost officially fantasy football draft season. And it might sound early, but a lot of people start kicking it off with those best balls, start considering, actual strategy for their drafts coming up in late August, around July time, 4th of July. I'm loving it. I'm excited for the weekend. If you're not a subscriber already, consider subscribing to the channel. We really appreciate it. And like this video. It helps us out a lot. Comment below on some players you are definitely owning on every one of your teams this year as of right now. Ryan, what's going on, man?
It's like 150 degrees in Pennsylvania right now. It's probably just as hot in Florida. I've been melting consistently, but I did get my other Scott Fishbowl t-shirt in today,
Nice.
which was, a nice come up. Aside from that, just trying to hold on to every bit of football news and notes because Philadelphia sports is abysmal. So I'm diving into more just general NFL stuff. So I'm very excited that that's kind of gearing up right now. We're about to start July, and that's going to be the focus. And I couldn't be more excited. That it feels like football season is right around the corner.
Yeah, it does. I'm definitely really excited. I promise we will not talk about the Sixers, except for right there. But let's go ahead and get into the video. I know everyone's waiting. We'll start off with one of your guys, a running back that you are definitely liking his ADP right now. You're liking his value and whatnot. And that guy is Chris Carson. Tell me why you want to have him on a lot of your teams as of right now.
Yeah, so I just kind of touched on it. I love the nonsense aspect of the offseason. And Chris Carson just dropped a fire shirtless pick. Obviously, I'm going to buy directly into Chris Carson after seeing that. I mean, he looked like he was made out of Kevlar.
Dude's a tank. Wow.
Dude,
I
like,
bet most guys are tanks. They're just not posting
yeah.
photos like that.
I mean, if you want me to gas you up on our podcast, just drop a shirtless pic. I mean, I'm just gonna immediately gravitate to it. And Chris Carson's the most recent guy to do such. He looks ginormous. Obviously, he wasn't a svelte guy when you see him on the field. Like, he's a pretty bulky running back, but his current ADP on Fantasy Pros is running back 21, and to me, that's insulting. I don't think that a guy that has a chance to be a bell cow, which are few and far between in this NFL, should be getting taken at RB21. That's actually definitely insulting. I mean, he's overall running back, or he's overall player 37. So, like, I get it, but he had a 16-game pace for 1,300 total yards and 12 touchdowns last year. And on top of that, his coach came out right as the season ended and said they need to run the ball more, which not great for, DK Metcalf fans and Tyler Lockett fans. But if you're a Chris Carson fan, that's what you want to hear. And Carlos Hyde seemingly did more in that offense than Rashad Penny has done in his career in Seattle, and he's gone. So I really like the optics for Chris Carson. I'm reaching on Chris Carson this year.
Yeah, he's like a good running back to get if you want to do a little something different early in the draft. He's good. You could even have him as your running back one. It's not the safest, but if you're going to punt the position in the first couple of rounds and go after a guy like Carson and maybe another running back right after, it's not a horrible start. Definitely like that. One of my first must-have players is actually a second-year quarterback in Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. I know a lot of people will be speculative on how he will come back from pretty nasty knee injury in a couple different locations last year. It kind of sucks to see he was off on a crazy volume. The coaches trusted him enough to put him on a 16 game pace of over 700 pass attempts, which would have just been insane. But for a rookie, those are some pretty startling numbers to see. You throw your rookie out there and you trust him enough to give him that much volume. So I like that the coaches, put the ball in his hands and let him go to work. The only downside was he wasn't really passing for a lot of touchdowns. He had the yardages, but 300 yards and one touchdown isn't going to help you win your fantasy football week. I like to get a quarterback. There's certain strategies. If you're not going to go early with the quarterback, I kind of like taking an upside quarterback, even if I have to reach on him just a little bit. And his current ADP is like in around 8 in like 12-team drafts. Not awful at that point of the draft. You're kind of taking chances. And then I'll grab a safer guy that I like his early schedule, like a Kirk Cousins or someone like that that's got a couple good first games, with easy matchups. If Joe Burrow gets off on a slow start, we like his rushing floor normally, but you would think after that knee injury, it's going to take him a few games to, get back up to speed and implement that part of his game. So that's the strategy I would take. But Joe Burrow, with the volume alone and how much the coaches trust him and that stealthy wide receiver core they have and a great pass catching running back in Joe Mixon, kind of all has all the traits of a real breakout year coming for him if he's able to stay healthy, and the knee from last year doesn't hold him up from progressing more this year. I think the volume will come down, but I think the efficiency in the touchdown department, it's got to be in the positive regression side. Like, no doubt, more touchdowns coming for Joe Burrow. I'm excited for this offense. He got Jamar Chase. I think everyone's just waiting for week one for something crazy to happen with Jamar Chase where he goes over 100, catches a touchdown or two, and it's going to be like, wow, these guys are back. So I'm excited to watch a guy like Joe Burrow. He's a guy I'm going to be going for, If I don't go quarterback early, which I usually don't, I'm going to implement that strategy where I take a quarterback and then a safer guy later. So I like Joe Burrow. Let's go ahead and move on to your next guy, another quarterback out in Tennessee.
I mean, the Tannehill is getting disrespected beyond belief. He was quarterback 8 last year, and he's QB 11 ADP this year. I feel like people don't like the fact that he's a safe play. He's not a big flashy name. They don't throw the ball a ton in Tennessee, but I think that changes a little bit this year. Do they want to give Derrick Henry another 300-plus carry season? They can if they want to. I don't think that they really want to. I think that they want to have his career stretched out a little bit longer, and they know that even though Derrick Henry's a freak, you can't just give him the ball, 350 times. So they brought in one of the other biggest freaks in the NFL in Julio Jones, and getting a bona fide stud wide receiver one who's still a wide receiver one, who's a lock Hall of Famer on the opposite side of A.J. Brown, it's going to do wonders for your quarterback. Ryan Tannehill's only had one game in his year and a half with the Titans where he didn't have a touchdown. I like Tannehill's floor. He's a safe play, and he's got huge upside. On top of that, they lost Jonnu Smith. Anthony Ferguson only had 60 less receiving yards than him last year. I don't think they're missing a whole lot when they go to Ferguson instead of Jonnu Smith. I really think that this offense is gearing towards a modern NFL offense. So I think Tannehill at QB 11, which in 10-team leagues is somebody's quarterback too, a solid value. And, he's going to be on all my teams. If you get Tannehill and Burrow like you're talking about, you're not going to have to worry for the rest of the year.
No, he's like the perfect quarterback to grab at a value with extreme upside. Like you mentioned, his efficiency is kind of insane. They brought in Julio Jones, not losing much in the tight end department, and they got Derrick Henry to lean on. Man, I like that offense. It seems like low volume in the passing game, but they got a lot of good options. You think the volume's got to go up a little bit, and the efficiency is going to stay the same. So I like that. Before going to my next guy, Ryan, that's some serious hardware you got behind you. Big championship.
Yeah, so we actually give our trophy out at the draft.
Yeah.
So I did not win this past year, and I've got to pass it along. So it's my final ride with her.
That's fun. It's you do a little ceremony, handing off the trophy.
She may be down the Jersey Shore this week. May be crushing some beers out of her with the fantasy league. It's to be determined. It's the last ride though.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to my next guy. Running back on the Los Angeles Chargers, that's Austin Ekeler. Now, certainly with his ADP, you're not getting much of a value here. He is getting drafted in the back of the first round, early second. I've mostly seen him in the second round. He's that guy you pair with like Tyreek Hill or Stephon Diggs if you go wide receiver late in the first round. And I'm perfectly okay with that. In the games he played last year, he averaged about 5.5 receptions a game with over 95 scrimmage yards a game. That's pretty good. And we knew his health was kind of up in the air all year. He missed quite a few games and, came back. Justin Herbert was there when he got back. And I just kind of like where I'm seeing him going in this offense with Herbert in his second year, with them losing Hunter Henry, targets to be had. I know it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to go to the backfield, but we know that's Austin Ekeler's specialty. And I don't really like any of the running backs they have in that backfield. We saw Justin Jackson. We've seen Josh Kelly. They're fine, but they're not Austin Ekeler. Austin Ekeler is a weapon on that team, and he is going to be the main focal point in that backfield. So I like him a lot. if he's my running back one, I feel very comfortable. I know he's not Christian McCaffrey. I know he's not Dalvin Cook. But he can do a lot for you, especially in the passing game. In a PPR league, his value is very much in near the top 5 if he can have the type of season we know he can have. So definitely like that. And like I said, his ADP, not much of a value, but a guy that if you have a back of the first round draft pick, definitely want to consider taking Ekeler as your running back one. He's going to be lumped in there with guys like Nick Chubb and Aaron Jones, and you have to decide which one of those guys you want to see on your fantasy football team all year. But most of the time, I'm going to opt for the guy in a PPR league that has the most pass catching upside, and that is most definitely Austin Ekeler, followed by Aaron Jones and then Nick Chubb with not much of that passing upside with Kareem Hunt there. So I'm taking Austin Ekeler all day when I'm in the back of the first round and right around the corner if he's there. I like that pickup. So
yeah,
yeah,
100%.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, they lost Hunter Henry, who we've talked about as being a solid safety blanket. I think Ekeler kind of steps in that role. I mean, it's easy to check down to a guy who's open all the time. And I saw odds that he's like the favorite to have the next shirtless pick. So when Austin Ekeler drops his shirtless pick for the offseason, he will be firmly on my team. So I will be drafting Austin Ekeler as soon as he drops an Instagram where he's just, head to toe in sweat, looking great. So he'll be on my squad. Don't worry about it.
Love that. All right, let's go ahead and move on to your next guy over there in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, this guy is he's like the Joe Mixon of the fantasy Twitter for wide receivers, where you either love this guy or you hate this guy, and I love this guy. Just because you watched one game that was on national TV against Buffalo where he got benched, you think he's like the worst wide receiver of all time. He had 144 targets last year, and that is Deontay Johnson. From week 7 on, where he finally got healthy, 8 of the 11 games he had 10-plus targets. He's currently the PPR wide receiver 20. I don't know what they're doing in Pittsburgh, right? They on one hand want to get the run game better, where they got Harris. On the other hand, they lost 2 of their offensive linemen from last year, and then they signed Trey Turner, who doesn't do a whole lot for me as an offensive lineman. Big Ben, he's coming off injuries and being Big Ben and old, and Deontay Johnson's going to be a fine safety blanket. He wins the route as soon as the route starts. He's always open 5 yards down the field. I think he's solid for them, just being the guy who's immediately open. And for some reason, Big Ben doesn't like targeting tight ends between the 20s. He just doesn't seem to do that. I think Deontay Johnson is that safety blanket in the offense. I get that the drops are scary, but he had a stretch of like 3 or 4 games where the drops mostly came. And aside from that, he was pretty solid. Once he got healthy, he was great. He's going to be on all my teams. He's getting drafted overall at 55. So he's like a 4th, 5th round guy. Mm-hmm. He's your wide receiver 2 in a PPR league. He's essentially doing the Jarvis Landry thing where he has tons of targets. It doesn't really make it to 1,000 yards, but if he has 120 catches, you're not that concerned.
Brian, do you lose fantasy points for drops?
You don't, Steve, which is crazy.
Right. As long as you don't get benched, then hey, it's okay if he drops a few here and there. His target volume's insane. I love Deontay Johnson. So, all right, let's go ahead and move on to my next guy. Oh, man, friend of the show, tight end for the Los Angeles Rams. We're bringing him back. Look at that facial expression. Tyler Higbee, boys and girls. Tyler Higbee. He is back. We cannot forget that historic 2019 finish that we're still dreaming about, where he was on an insane run where over 5 weeks he had like 600 yards receiving with like a couple touchdowns. Just insane. Probably, I think he had like 50 catches in like those 5 games. I mean, he was going off the charts. He was going off the charts. Last year was weird. All right. Everett was there. He was healthy. Back in the lineup. But this is one tight end team now. All right. Matt Stafford's coming into town. All right. Mr. West Coast fits in that offense much better. I think the whole team is going to be a lot better with Matt Stafford behind center. And look at Matt Stafford did to T.J. Gronkinson last year. He started to raise him up. A little bit. I think he can continue to do the same with Tyler Higbee. Tyler Higbee is 28 years old, but this is kind of around the time, maybe last year at that age, it's where tight ends can have a breakout all randomly, 4 or 5 years into their career. Maybe this is it. Tyler Higbee showed flashes of his breakout. Never really had the complete opportunity. We knew Sean McVay had a little love connection with Everett, but now he's gone. Must have not been that much in love. Tyler Higbee's still in town. He did average only 3 targets a game last year. Surely that's going to go up to around 5, hopefully 6. And if you can get that in that offense, it's going to be pretty high scoring, hopefully. Not bad. Current ADP, tight end 16, way later rounds. He's a tight end you can draft, in a great offense. Take your shot early. Put him in your lineup first couple weeks, and if he erupts, man, that's gold. That's what wins you fantasy leagues. When you draft a tight end in the later rounds, it's tight end 16. Then he turns out to be a top 5 tight end. Certainly not locking him as a top 5 tight end, but we've seen the upside. We've seen it before. He's got the talent. He's got the mobility. We've seen him do it on the fantasy stage, on the NFL stage. I'm excited. I'm implementing the Tyler Higbee movement again this year, as of right now. We'll see if anything comes out in the rest of the summer. But Tyler Higbee is a guy that's a must-have on my team if I'm not going tight end early. I'm going to try taking him. Tight end 16 doesn't cost too much. Let's go ahead and move on to the next guy. Fantasy favorite. I think a lot of people like this guy, but they've been burned by him in the past. And that's DJ Moore of the Carolina Panthers.
I mean, I love DJ Moore. I think he's been on my fantasy team the last 3 years. Since his rookie year. He just does everything that I like in a wide receiver. He just doesn't score touchdowns. So he's like mini Julio Jones out there. But I think that changes a little bit this year. Last year, he had 17 less targets than he had in 2019, but he had more yards. He's developing as a wide receiver, and I love that. Samuel's gone, so you might see a little more gadget stuff with him. In his rookie year, he had 17 rushes for like 150 yards. You might see that a little bit more this year. I think that he's skilled enough you move him around the field, he makes things happen. I really think he's a guy that they just need to get the ball to, and I love Teddy Bridgewater as a human. I've done this multiple times on many podcasts that we've recorded. He's not a good quarterback. He single-handedly got DJ Moore killed at the end of the year on that high throw in the end zone. I think that you can laugh now, but Sam Darnold is significantly better than what DJ Moore or than what Teddy Bridgewater was giving you.
Significantly.
I think significantly. Last year, when targeted, DJ Moore led the league in interceptions his way. So when they were throwing the ball at DJ Moore, he was getting picked off. I think that if you put the ball on DJ Moore, he's going to make a play happen or two. He should be a 1,200 receiving yard guy, and you can the listener can begrudge that. He's been close the last 2 years. And if he gets in the end zone more than the 4 times the last 2 years he's gotten there, he could be a top 10 wide receiver. And currently he's going at PPR wide receiver 21. So he's a huge value. He's always on my fantasy teams. I'm going to reach for DJ Moore again. And I'm excited for what a new quarterback has in store for DJ Moore.
Yep, everyone loves DJ Moore. He's a player's guy. Moving on to the next guy. That is wide receiver Dallas, Amari Cooper. A guy people love to hate. There's a lot of hype around CeeDee Lamb this offseason. Even Michael Gallup's getting his own hype. But can't we forget, no we can't, what Amari Cooper did with Dak Prescott in the first 4 games last year. And this will be the most referenced group of games in NFL history, is the first 4 games to the Dallas Cowboys in 2020. Because they were off to an incredible pace. Dak Prescott was on pace for 6,000 passing yards. Amari Cooper was the wide receiver 1. Ezekiel Elliott was the running back 1 or 2. They were going to have a great season. It was a clear difference from the previous seasons, and they were going to have a great season. I have no reason to believe Amari Cooper is not going to leave off in a similar position to where he was. I know CeeDee Lamb is getting better. He's great. I don't think he's good enough to pass up Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper is a very good wide receiver in the NFL with a lot of experience. People are kind of forgetting that. We all love the young weapon that comes in out of college, and he's really good. CeeDee Lamb was one of the best in that draft class, and he had a very good rookie season. But Amari Cooper is the veteran on that team, and he's still pretty young. And he's got all the skill in the world to create a connection with Dak Prescott or develop that connection even more and, put up games like he was earlier in last season. His current ADP is mid-round 3. He's a guy that's probably going to slip to round 4 because people love to hate him. If you got him as your wide receiver 1 because you went running back, and maybe you decided to draft a tight end, I like that. It gives you the flexibility. I've mentioned this about some of my other picks. It gives you the flexibility early on because you can get a guy like Amari Cooper as your wide receiver one, link him with a Deontay Johnson, as you mentioned, and that's a great wide receiver core. Going to be lots of catches. Going to be guys you can depend on. Amari Cooper will have his pooper games that aren't the greatest, but he's got great upside, and I really think his floor is like wide receiver 15 if he's healthy all year. And right now, going in the third or fourth round, it's pretty much right around there, and that's his floor. I think his ceiling is much higher. I like the flexibility you're able to get with him if you draft him. Like I said, it's a guy people love to hate. For some reason, I just think people are going to be so high on Dak, and they want to be so high on CD, but they're just kind of pushing Amari to the side like he's not the wide receiver one on this team. We know this offense is going to be great. So Amari Cooper, I never thought I'd say it until I really looked into the numbers and where he's going right now in drafts. If his ADP doesn't go, I'm going to own a lot of Amari Cooper, and it probably won't feel the greatest. And I don't know if you feel the same, but hey, I'm right now I'm locked in.
I mean, I can't argue with all the logic for Amari Cooper.
Just logic.
Yeah, I mean, it's stats and numbers and 4 games worth of material, and I respect it.
It's more so where he's going in the draft. He's still got the name value, he's still got the skill. We saw what he did last year. You can pick him up at a value and still feel comfortable. Everyone likes to have that name value on their team when they leave the draft. You don't want any guys that are like potential breakouts. You want a lot of guys that like have done it in the past, and Amari Cooper has certainly done that.
Exactly. I mean, you got to have the Adam Thielens of the world, and then Amari Cooper's quickly working his way there. But you talked about the wide receiver in Dallas that you want. I want a tight end named Dallas. Tight end 9 ADP. In Philadelphia, it's going to be a little higher, and Zach Ertz still hasn't been moved. But nonetheless, I'm taking Dallas Goedert as many times as I possibly can this year, mostly because he's getting drafted behind guys like Noah Fant, Logan Thomas, yeah, you called him Gronkinson, which was hilarious. And Kyle Pitts. To me, if you wait on tight end and you get Dallas Goedert, you're winning that draft. I think that he has the highest upside of these guys that are going after, the big 3, big 4 tight ends that you want. And he's shown it. Like, you've seen games where Dallas Goedert is the best pass catching option in Philadelphia, and with Jalen Hurts last year, he was pacing for 744 yards, which was third in tight ends for yards. So I really think that Dallas Goedert has possibly the best breakout potential out of all these tight ends. Obviously, Zach Ertz is still here, and it's concerning that he's still here. I mean, he was going to be a post-June 1st guy, and it's June 29th as we're recording this. He's still here. In 11 games, he had the 7th most deep targets at tight end. He's the George Kittle to the Zach Ertz, Travis Kelce in the offense, where he was doing a lot of run protection, and the Eagles have shored up their line. They've figured it out, and I don't expect Goedert to do as much blocking as he did last year, especially as the tight end 1. Even if Zach Ertz is there, Dallas Goedert is a better player, a better tight end overall, and he should see the majority of the snaps. For some odd reason, Ertz is still there.
Yeah, what's going on with that? Do you have any insight?
So what I think is happening is the Eagles are either, 1, trying to somehow get something for Zach Ertz, which isn't going to happen, or 2, he's going to be an Eagle. And
really?
Yeah, Ertz cried at his presser. Everyone was emotional at the end of the year, but it gets to the point where, do you just keep him for his leadership? They might do that, but I still think that Dallas Goedert is the guy. There's no reason that Zach Ertz should be playing more than Goedert. And honestly, it got to a point where Richard Rodgers should have been playing more than Zach Ertz last year, which hurts to say, but I mean, he was producing as a tight end for the Eagles. And I don't know, man. I think he's going to be a top 5 tight end if he gets full 16 games, which I hope he does. So he's going to be on all my teams if I don't somehow get a value out of the top 3 tight ends.
Yeah, I hate talking about like human people, and players, but Ertz got to go. I'm not a Philly fan. I know it hurts to say you got a strong emotional connection to that guy. Won a Super Bowl with you. He's done a lot for the city, But he's got to go. He's got to open that pathway for Dallas Goedert. Stop taking any targets of his because Dallas Goedert, he's going to be great. I agree with you 100%. All right. On to the must-have kicker portion of the show. No, I'm just kidding, guys. No kickers on this show. That was our must-have players for the 2021 season. As of right now, it's late June, early July. We'll probably have some newer must-have players maybe around a month from now. But next couple of weeks, we're going to be coming back with round 2 of those positional rankings, an update. We did about a month ago. We'll give you those running backs, those wide receivers, those quarterbacks, and of course, can't forget those tight ends. It's a tight end show. Can't forget those. And of course, more and more mock drafts and some other specialty videos on the way. So if you don't want to miss those, subscribe and ring that bell so you don't miss another video. Drop a comment below on some of your must-own players for the 2021 season. We'll see you next time.